Adam's end at WeWork came when
Was a little rough.
a little
All right, even though red flags, it was more red flags than the Chinese parade.
whatever this guy's selling me, holy shit, it
It's
must be
probably
good. Hey, I want to buy a share, and they're like, oh yeah, you're not gonna get a board seat because you're trash.
That
From my
he's
point
flying
of
by
view.
the seat of his pants. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah, venture hustles, life is really what you make it. Building up your brand is whatever you create it. Really ain't no limit. You just gotta love it. Working day and night, it's all about the venture hustle. Hey, venture hustles. Time to take it to the next level. Let's go.
Welcome back to Venture Hustles Podcast. I'm your co-host Saj. I've got two of my other wonderful co-hosts with me, Jack and Horton. This is a place where we talk about startups, tech, entrepreneurship, and a lot of other current events, which is the main center of our topic today.
For today, yeah.
Yeah, welcome back.
Welcome back.
So today we're covering WeWork and the, can we say the debacle?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The debacle that occurred, and pretty much, I mean, the show recently released this quarter?
So what Horton is talking about is We Crashed,
We Crashed.
right?
Correct.
The
Correct.
Apple TV show that came out.
Yeah, that's pretty much, what is the term? Timelining with the occurrences, right?
Yeah,
That's
so-
another word I was looking for, but whatever.
Yeah, kind of outlines
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is this gentleman named Adam Neumann, who was the CEO of a company called WeWork. Now, to a lot of people that don't know what WeWork is, it's
Yeah.
a co-working shared office space for primarily for startups and entrepreneurs. It's pretty popular if you're in a major city in America. You'll probably see a couple of WeWorks or some alternate businesses that are similar.
Not even just America, they had international offices as
Yeah,
well.
one
Right,
point.
WeWork specifically branched out overseas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me. I wanted to pitch this idea to talk with the boys in a solo boys only episode, is because for me this is really weird, because I was in the center of a lot of the startups and the entrepreneur hustle in Brooklyn when I first started my first company. The first company that I ever started was out of a co-working shared space office, which we rented for maybe $500. It was a tiny office.
How long did you do that for?
Man, I mean, we shifted. We kept getting bigger offices.
Okay.
Then we ended up getting its own solo space. But the first one, probably a couple of months,
Okay.
because we grew and grew. But it was weird to me because this is the second time that this has happened to me, where I knew somebody that I either worked with or met at a party or were in the same circle in the whole Brooklyn tech space.
Yeah.
The first one when this happened was Billy McFarland.
Yep, Firefest.
Firefest debacle.
Oh, no kidding.
I met that guy.
Shit.
We were working on a deal to partner together.
Not on Fry.
No, not Fire.
Oh.
You mean?
Yeah.
So not on Firefest, but
Okay.
this is back when we had the event ticketing company.
Okay.
But
Got it.
then he went to jail, and everybody knows, if you've seen the Netflix documentary, that's what happened. But then it was kind of bizarre because this whole Adam Neumann thing didn't even come into my radar until I heard about the podcast, and I was like, holy shit! And then I looked into it, and basically he founded Green Desk, which was the company where we rented our first office from.
Yeah, him and Miguel, I don't know how to say the last name.
Miguel McKelvey.
Yep.
They met through a mutual friend at a party, and they came up with the idea of Green Desk.
Yep.
So we were in one of the first locations that he opened.
Nutty.
So it was insane, and we were at that location for years. I'm talking 4 or 5 years. We were at the Green Desk location where we just kept going from office to office, expanded, got multiple offices as the startup and the ventures I was involved with grew. But it was insane because I met him at a networking event, a Green Desk networking event literally in the first 6 months. He ended up
For
selling
6 months of your business.
yeah. So back in that day. So nothing crazy stood out to me. But back in the in that cycle, it was one of those things where I just didn't know where it ended up going, right?
Yeah.
I heard about WeWork.
Right.
Went to so many WeWorks in New York and in LA, and visited other businesses and for business work related things. And I never knew it was founded
This
by
guy.
Adam Neumann, who it was just bizarre to me. And I was like, man, is my past a little bit too kind of crazy with some of the like that circle of people in that entire space.
The fire festival guy and Neumann,
all happened like consecutively within 2 to 3 years. So I just wanted to talk about it because I wanted to like us to kind of reflect on what happened, what the debacle is, like what was this incident that happened? Why is it like, why was it trending? Why is it being talked about now?
Why is there a show about it? And
why is there a show about it?
Maybe even some valuable lessons to learn from it, from maybe your point of view, like being that you met someone, right? And then even the point of view of if you, let's say you're in Adam's position, you know,
what would you do? Yeah. I've got some like takeaways and like some things I want to discuss and pick your brains on.
So where should we start?
I think we should highlight a little bit of like what happened, the situation, and like give a little.
So do a little background on Adam.
Yeah,
100%.
Foremost. So apparently he's a guy that was born in Israel, came over to America in teen years or something like that. And basically, not teen years. He served in the army. Everybody in Israel has to serve in the army until like 22 or something like that. And then 22, 23, and then came out here, and then he studied business at Baruch in Manhattan.
I found that really interesting too.
Yep. Actually, his sister apparently was a model or something, so he was living with her.
Model, you said?
Yeah, model. So pretty much he was able to live with her, do his schooling, and then at a point he opened up Green Desk with Miguel.
Yeah.
That's a short version of it.
Like early 2010, 2011, something like that is when he like sold Green Desk.
Correct.
And he made like anywhere, but so that number is very controversial. Like when you exit like that, sometimes you don't publicly disclose this. I've seen that figure in different times. So some people say he's made like $500,000 on that. Some people say they've made a couple million. So it's like, let's say 500 to $1 million is what they made, right?
Okay.
Off of. So basically he sold that Green Desk to our landlord that we were in. He owned multiple buildings. So the landlord that owned the building, he sold the brand Green Desk to.
This is like pretty like close to your chest kind of thing.
That's why I was like, we need to talk about this, right? Because it's like the show is like doing so well, and shout out to the podcast, by the way. Like a lot of our notes and our research was from that because they covered it so well.
They do a good job.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I would highly recommend checking out We Crashed. But to add a little bit more to before we go into like more into his background, his personality, right? Basically, what happened was they co-founded this company called WeWork. That ended up like that was basically a commercial real estate company which provides rental like leases for startups and entrepreneurs.
Good concept.
And it's a great concept. I don't think he invented it though. It exists in different forms.
He just made it modern.
Yeah.
Like, should we talk about like what a co-working space really means to the people that have no idea what we're talking about?
Yeah, let's definitely highlight that.
Okay.
So I mean, from at least from my understanding, right? It's a larger style office where there's going to be multiple companies working out of one space. You know, you're going to have a central conference room. You're going to have a central, let's say kitchen. Some of those amenities would be central, but it's a nice affordable way for a startup to, that doesn't have $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to spend on rent every month to now have an office space and start that building process.
Yes, it's furnished, it's open concept, and allows these startups to actually come in and
make it theirs.
You can say that, but like they have desks and they don't really need an office. You just need a place to work. A lot of people will go to Starbucks to get work done because it's a quiet space. But WeWork is that without the fact customers are coming in and out and kids or whatever it is.
Well, just to kind of give a visual painting to anybody that's listening or watching right now, is like what Horton is saying right now is basically imagine you walking into you going into a building and taking the elevator and you hitting the third floor button. The elevator doors open and what you're seeing is basically an all glass like office in cubicles that are like floor to ceiling, not like cubicles I guess, but you can get the idea, like 300, 400, 500 square footage. And they're all fully furnished, and when Horton says fully furnished, they're not like luxurious furniture, they're mostly
the basics,
like a work desk and a chair. Right? Now what's cool about it is they have the important amenities that you would need to run a business. So obviously you get Wi-Fi that's covered.
True.
Then you also get like a conference room where you can book hours for your clients or whatever you're doing, which is the big plus. Like we have our own office. We have our own private conference room because we don't share this. This is our private office. But it's expensive. And with that, it comes with the cost of your $300, $500 monthly rent. So just a kind of like a 101 on what a co-working space was, right? But to Adam, this was the new idea, like the new office idea of the future. This is how he was branding it when he was going to investors and different like VCs and just raising millions and billions in some cases.
VCs, venture capitalists, right?
Yeah, venture capital firms, and now to end the highlight of why we're talking about this is Adam's end at WeWork, like came when
Was a little rough.
a little. It was. I would say it was a lot of. I mean, I would say I would not wish that on anybody, and it's just a complete result of your actions.
Yeah.
And when Adam's like time ended, when there was an immense amount of pressure from his investors during an S1 filing, and to a lot of, do you guys know what an S1 filing is?
They're about to go initial public offering.
Correct. It's the due diligence process that goes through when you're basically trying to get listed on a national exchange. That's what an S1 filing is. So when they were doing this, they were trying to hit the IPO.
Yep.
During that process, a lot of things came to public
Started
view.
to unravel.
In essence, they failed the due diligence process.
Yeah. So just to kind of summarize why this is insane, the company, the year this went down, we're talking 2019, early in the year, when things were super hot for Adam in his crazy world, the company WeWork was valued at $47 billion, right? I mean, this is an insanely staggering
I'm trying
amount
to
of money.
think of like in my mind a comparison to like a company that's worth that to maybe
I mean,
be a little
around
bit
that
more.
time, he was competing with like Uber. He was competing with other companies that were in the same trajectory. I mean, Uber was a lot further along, but like, you get the idea.
Give me an idea. It's like how much money that is, and like
47 billion is a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. When you hit 100B, you're in a very elite club, right? But what was crazy was that company was valued at $47 billion, and it dropped down in the same year down to $8 billion.
Yep, over a 10-month period.
Over a 10-month period. And we want to talk about
let's
why
debunk
this
it a
happened.
little bit. Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. Now, you want to talk about, like, you've seen the show a little bit, right?
Yeah, I caught part of episode 1.
What would you say his personality was? Let's talk about Adam a little bit, right?
From the little bit that I was able to see, I mean, I don't know how accurate it is, but what I got out of Jared Leto playing his character, his being the character, whatever. He seemed a little. I think his wife held things together to some degree because he seemed like he was trying to live like a rock star to some degree. I don't know if that's an accurate representation of how it actually happened, but from what I saw, like. It starts off as towards the end of where everything with the investors like wanting to kick him out. I'll keep it at that to not spoil it. That's really what I'm trying to do. But I'm like, this guy's an idiot. That's unfortunately what I saw in the first, like, I saw like 20, 30 minutes of the first episode.
Okay.
But I didn't understand how he got to the point of 47 billion valuation. It didn't seem like it was a Mark Zuckerberg or the guys that did Google. Like I'm trying to understand.
I got to know on that. Let's talk about
Sure.
that because you talk valuation, right?
Yeah. And not to say he's an idiot. Just I don't know.
From a surface level,
I've worked with people
face
like
value.
that. And when you see Jared Leto play that role, and because in the podcast, like no matter, like I've listened to a couple episodes, right? It doesn't translate as much as like from a visual perspective. Like they're interviewing their friends on like, oh, is this how I should play Adam Neumann, right? Now my point is, the reason why I found this fascinating is when you said that valuation, that's so subjective in this day and age. Like for example, this is from like the research that I found, right? Even though WeWork is doing a lot better now, in COVID they bounced back over 50% in like revenue and a lot of other stuff.
Good.
There's an acquisition group called Bowx that is basically a special purpose acquisition company that merged with WeWork to get its shit together.
Okay.
And basically after they did that, everything we're talking about is post 2019, right? They valued the company at $9 billion, including debt. Right?
Okay.
And I don't know if you're all caught up on the show, but if you'd read the articles and everything, you'd know that SoftBank, which is the shady, I want to kind of talk about that. I don't care how controversial that is.
So a bank out of Japan, yeah.
Yes, but you know who backs them?
The Saudi prince. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the controversial
So
part.
we that was the controversy. Okay, all right. So but SoftBank invested about 11 to 12 billion, something like that, in the company, like during its early days, and later on is when they were like, "Oh shit, I can't do this. We can't do this anymore."
Jumping ship.
And they value it at 2.9 billion.
Yeah.
We're talking about two very heavily invested companies, like VC firms or investment firms, that came in at two different timelines of the company's lifespan, and they value it completely different. So it's very subjective. We're not talking about it being off by a couple $100 million. We're talking about it being off by like 5-6 billion.
Yep.
I mean, it's a couple 100% if you think about it, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's staggering.
2, 4,
right?
6, 8, 10.
Yeah.
So you think it was like an eccentric, crazy guy, a little bit?
Adam Neumann himself.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch the show to see how accurate it is. But I watched the interview that he did recently. I caught part of that while I was doing my research, and he seems like a more put together guy than what they portray him as. But then again, he's older now. He's more experienced. You know, he's past that phase to some degree. So I'm not sure. We'll see.
It seemed like he thought that everything was just going to work out somehow.
Yeah,
That's what it seemed like.
What I understood is that he's flying by the seat of his pants. Like, what the hell?
You know, so
You couldn't have said that more like accurate, dude. It's
Yeah.
like it translates a lot more. By the way, Adam Neumann lives in Long Island now in the Hamptons. He's got multiple properties. He will tell you about his outcome and where he is in life now.
Yep.
But basically, he was this guy that wanted to be the world's first trillionaire. Like he talked about these things. I'm not making this up. Like you can do your own research.
Yeah, he did.
And he wanted to he wanted to be the president of like Israel. He wanted to do so many crazy things, and like he would talk about it. And look, there's nothing wrong with trying to be the president of Israel.
No, absolutely not.
But when you say things like, I want to be the world's first trillionaire, like you have a very different type of focus than a lot of other entrepreneurs that are in your position, if not doing better than you. That's a metric target that you're going for.
Does I want to be the first trillionaire and the president of Israel? Like, does that fit in the same sentence?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe
he
not.
made it happen, and he made it happen in the sense of the thought, not actually seeing it through yet.
But one thing I found really fascinating, a lot of his high-level execs in the company at WeWork, the people that worked with him, made a lot of the decisions with him, said he was an incredible salesman. And
You gotta be to sell that kind of a dream.
Man, I mean, just you see the show, right? The only thing that probably holds him back, I would say, is how he's a little bit awkward with the language barrier and like the accent. But I don't even think it matters because his charisma was so like
His conviction.
his conviction, his charisma was so I'm thinking, for a lack of a better word, it's just so addictive to people when he was like engaging with them, you know. And it was just like,
Yeah, I could see that. I could
Whatever
see why
this-
you say that.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
like whatever this guy's selling me, holy shit,
It's
it must be
probably
good.
the next big thing.
But people were like to your point, enough people were engulfed by it to go along for the ride. Even though red flags, it was more red flags than the Chinese parade for a lot of people.
I feel like
coming
that's
up.
how that typically happens, though, right? You have someone
true.
that's like in your face, like it sounds so great, and
Yep.
like your mind starts to now dismiss some
Yes.
of those red flags, and before you
Yes.
know it, you're deep in there.
Yep.
So I also want to highlight something, right? Like
go ahead.
he attracted that kind of people, at least in his immediate life. Like his
Yeah.
wife, Rebecca Neumann, she's who's the cousin of Gwyneth Paltrow, by the way, which is like a famous actress. Like, I don't know if you know Gwyneth Paltrow, the main
Pepper
lead
Potts and Iron Man.
in Iron Man, the main actress in Iron Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding!
Yeah, so
Iron Man's my guy, so I know who Pepper is.
you know who Pepper
I
is.
love
so
Iron Man.
she's like
Stud.
Rebecca's, like you'll see in the show, and like, you know, his story, she always has these like complexities, like
Yeah.
but like the point is, she's equally eccentric, kind of like crazy. She's a lot more like this like yogi spiritual person, but without her vibe and without her reciprocating and entertaining all of the crazy shit that Adam wanted to do, like I don't think Adam would get to where he wanted to go, because and you can kind of go cheesy with all that. I'm not trying to say every man has a successful, I don't know what the saying is, but you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I mean, I was literally about to say, like, you know, as it
behind
said,
every man
ma-
there's a success. Yeah,
Yep,
there's a
there's a
successful
woman.
man. There's a woman. I don't even think that's the case, because she put $1 million when they were starting up, out of her own money, to get them going. So she was, in a lot of ways, one of the first angel investors.
I read somewhere that she felt it was her. I'm gonna what's the word? Not verbatim.
Like obligation?
No, I'm gonna loosely try to repeat what she was quoted to have said. Basically, as a woman, her position in her life, at least, was to help her fulfill her man's dreams or passions or whatever he was
be
trying
like a
to do.
supporting role kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, to your point, that's why she was even comfortable doing something like that. So yeah.
So I mean, but I think that you just have to be the same level of crazy to be able to do something like that. You know, it's just like
Talking about Adam or his wife?
His wife.
Oh,
yeah. I know exactly what part you're talking about too. They
Love is blind, as they say.
I truly think that's a true love pair, like straight up.
Yeah.
They got like so many kids now and like whatnot.
So I mean, let's really like kind of dive into
Like what went down.
Yeah, let's kind of, you know, I think we've set a good blanket precedent, right?
Yeah.
We've touched on some things. You're kind of informed. So,
Like
what do
happened?
we got? Yeah, what happened? What did Adam Neumann do or did not do?
So I guess like we can just go into like the shady side of like what he did and like what happened.
Yeah.
The reason, in a nutshell, it was in a very like the real estate world. One of our guests that we're going to bring on is like a real estate entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But and we should probably talk to him about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is a very like it's like black and white. Like what do you want to do? Right. It's pretty much like straightforward. He was trying to innovate within a space that already existed a little bit, but it needed breathing space from time to time when you're trying to scale and grow. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is he was just opening up. Like, I mean, at one point, he was opening up, like, what is it, like 800 locations? That's what they did. 12,000 employees, 800 locations, all within a very short period of time.
What's short, like 36 months?
Well, 800 locations is probably over like a 2-3 year period.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a lot of locations,
Yeah.
a lot of different cities, 12,000 employees. And the problem is like you're renting these properties out without getting any tenants that are coming in. There's like so many different things that went wrong in the business model, which was faulty to begin with. Highlight. This is what was happening at one point. They were making $1.9 billion revenue in 2018. Now that sounds really good, right? $1.9 billion in 2018. Like, what'd y'all think? Like, that sounds like a really good number.
I mean, it seems like he's doing pretty well, I'd say. Anything with a B, you know, I mean,
it's not great if you're burning. If your burn rate is $1.9 billion, like 0.1 billion more. So they were making 1.8.
And he was burning
1.9 in the same year. So, like, I mean, roughly, let's do the math. It's $100 million divided by 12. You know, that's how much they were burning every year. They were not a profitable company.
10 million-ish a month type thing.
Yeah. Roughly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a big concern for investors. And then Adam was kind of crazy. He spent a shit ton of money, lavished things left and right, like, private jets. He started throwing these Coachella type parties and events for no reason.
Yeah.
Well, I think he had a smart reason. It was all these red flags. Everybody's dismissing them if there's a social event to some degree.
It's a social event, like
smoke and mirrors kind of thing.
I mean, just unnecessary in my opinion. But I don't even think it was that. I think I agree with what Jack was saying. I think he was like, he didn't see it coming. He just thought it would never catch up to him to that point, right? So a lot of these things were concerning to the investors, and they were like, "Oh man." He also started saying shit like, "I want to make We Fly, We Gin."
Yep. We sail.
And like in the board,
We
the
sail.
board, his
What the fuck are you talking about, Adam?
the board is literally like, what does this have to do with a co-working shared mentality, like a business model that has nothing to do?
I mean,
with this.
you know, not to be fair, but like, you know, at the end of the day, like, that's something that can happen if, number one, you think it's just everything's going to work out on its own, which it won't every single time. But then also, like, you're getting too far ahead of yourself. You know, I mean, there's obviously a place where you need to delegate responsibilities, and, you know, you have a ship here that's smooth sailing.
Yep.
Obviously,
Yeah.
he was nowhere near that point.
Huh?
Did you mention We Live?
Where he lives?
No, We Live.
What do you mean?
They started We Live
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
We Live, dude. Yeah. So there's like so many ideas they were trying to do. The only thing they successfully launched, I think, was We Grow, which was a school, and the board.
No,
was
they
like,
did We
what
Live
now?
too. They had 3 locations.
Oh really?
They had 2. I forget what the first 2 locations were. The third one was in Seattle.
Okay. So anyway, like basically at this point, a lot of shady shit started coming out. When they were trying to file the IPO, they found out a lot of things that Adam did that were insanely illegal and unethical. Like, for example, he changed the official name of the company to We Company. And basically, he trademarked the name and charged his own company, WeWork, to use the name We.
No.
And he sold it for $9 million.
To who?
To himself.
No.
Dude, it's freaking insane.
We got our producer here, Emil, being like, wait, what did you just say, bro?
Like, isn't that crazy? Like, see, this is why I wanted to talk about this, because, like, as you kind of unpeel the layers of the onion, like, you're like, holy shit, there's, like, a lot of things that...
Now,
you
in
know?
order to do something like that, like, as you think, like, that's him, like, he's smart, like, it's clear to me that he knows the system, and he's... Call this a loophole. I mean, obviously this is very unethical, but like, it's like, holy shit.
Just if you saw the show, and I don't know how accurate the show is, let's just put that as a disclaimer.
For sure.
Like, it shows that he didn't have that level of business acumen to know. Like, he was a very charismatic guy, and he was always thinking about the future and whatnot. But I think he had good advisors, and I think he had people that told him to take advantage of these things because they saw these loopholes. And otherwise, it's too specific on a weird little thing. I mean, it came out either way. In the paperwork, the trail that you leave behind, it comes out, right?
Yeah.
He also cashed out about $700 million from his own company before the IPO happened.
Oh my god!
Through like stock sales and debt.
Yeah.
Basically, he also made millions of dollars by leasing multiple properties that he owned, and like where he had ownership stake, I should clarify, to WeWork when they were opening up new locations.
That's a double dip. Bad.
So like you can see why they were like, oh man, this guy's bad. This guy's bad. In a nutshell. They had a board meeting. They said, you got to go. And in a surprise event, when their board was voting, I don't know if you guys saw this in the research, Adam voted for himself. And I don't know if it was a publicity, PR stunt. I mean, he was going to go. He had to go no matter what. But he was like, fuck it, I'm going to vote for myself.
Vote for himself to leave.
To leave the company. So that's why I say, quote unquote, resign.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of underlying...
that's typically what happens. Like, whether it's a politician, like a famous CEO, like, they normally like, I'm resigning. Like, I vote for myself. So, I can understand.
But to some degree, I mean, he was smart enough to, like...
understand the ship was sinking, kind of?
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying in the sense that... We'll get to what he walked away with.
Yeah.
But he already was not in the position where it's like he was desperate. He was just like, okay, these are my terms, and I'll walk.
So what do you remember what he walked away with? You want to tell him what he walked away with?
$1.7 billion.
That's the accurate number?
That's what I saw in my research. I'm pretty sure that's the accurate number.
So basically it was, in the world of tech, they called it a golden parachute.
Yep.
Basically a golden parachute package worth almost like $2 billion. Horton probably has the accurate number from his primary investors, SoftBank.
Yes.
That was backed by MBS and the Saudi government.
Yes.
By the way, he just was able to reap the payouts early 2021 from that.
Okay.
And even then, like, SoftBank kind of pulled back, and there was a lot of other things where, like, oh, now we're renegotiating this. I think he ended up walking away with $450 million out of that whole thing, at least, unless there's more, right? We may be wrong with some of these numbers.
Even then.
Yeah.
Even then.
Either way,
if it was
walked
100
away
million.
with a lot of money.
Yeah.
For a mess.
Pretty much.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, at the end of the day, like, there's two things that gets involved. Like, around this time when this happened, Travis Kalanick, who's a CEO of Uber, like in 2017, he still was.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, in 2017, SoftBank, backed by the Saudi government, invested into Uber as well. And I think there was another VC firm, Benchmark. They were all like
Benchmark
Capital, right? So what was crazy is like this. Then that thing happened with Jamal Khashoggi. From the show that the documentary I told you to watch about the dissident. So basically, like, if people don't know, I don't want to get into that, but like basically this Saudi immigrant living in Turkey went to the Saudi consulate and he never came out of it. And we're talking about the consulate or
the embassy.
The embassy, right? And he never walked out. There's cameras of him going into the embassy. We're talking about an embassy. This is not like a random building.
It's supposed to be a safe place.
Safe and foreign land. Like, it's considered foreign land, right?
No.
So
never came out.
Then they found out, like, the Saudi government had a private jet full of people, like killers, that went out, executed the guy, chopped him up, blah, blah. It was so messy and so ugly
Oh my.
that they had they have a tech conference for investors that happen in Saudi Arabia called Davos in the Desert. And it's not to the regular people. It's only like big shots like Bezos and a lot of the people go out, right? They were trying to throw that around that time and it never went through because they were dealing with that, you know?
It's always important to know who you're doing business with, and really get to understand and who will you be working with. Obviously, you want to make sure they're integrity based. They have good character, right? Especially if you're new or just starting your business, right? You know, obviously there's going to be some sort of like leaps of faith, let's say, but at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, right? So don't ignore those red flags when that hair starts to stand up on your neck. Don't ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think I agree with you 100%. It's like red flags are so critical. Like we talk about this in our business world, right?
100%.
But it's just like when you're the top, like it's like you are the red flag, like, you know, and like it's more about the other people being wary. But that's honestly, the reality is like I feel bad because a lot of people are at the mercy of what's about to happen. Like they don't have control of their lives. At one point, Adam was so like cunning and like conniving with a lot of his tactics. Like it was like the investors put money into him, but the investors' hands were tied. They had no option but to keep pouring money into it because they were so deep into it, you know? So like my takeaway was like Neumann lost massive amounts of money from people that trusted him and put in billions behind him and his vision, all while leaving him vastly enriched, right? Doesn't make sense. It's kind of crazy. Like it's this crazy world we live in, right? But that's the business world. And
but I think the reality is that while we can say these things, he played it smart, right? Like when he was talking against Hillary and she was like, you don't pay taxes, right? We said this the other day. He said, I'm smart. To some degree, you can't say he's not smart because let's be honest, he's not like this is a Bernie Madoff situation.
Well, and there's one thing to understand the system, right? And play towards the system and benefit from the system based on the system. I think it's a different ball game if like you're looking for loopholes, looking to do damage to people, to, you know, like something that's a common saying is like, there's two ways to let's say, quote unquote, build the biggest building in town, right? The first way is to actually build your building the biggest. The second way is to build a little bit and tear everyone else's down, right? So, you know, it's...
I mean, I think it's safe to say we all follow the most ethical way of running a business.
You have to if you want to be it for the long term, and if you're an integrity-based person, you know what I mean?
But I think with him, he wasn't long term.
Yeah,
look what happened.
That's true.
And two, he did enough to stay legal.
Yeah,
dude, that's what I want to talk about, right? It's like, at what cost? So, I also want to talk about one thing, right? I think it's insanely difficult, like, and one of the biggest challenges of like modern finance is basically like making money during a bubble. Like we've seen so many different bubbles.
NFTs,
right?
Blockchain, cryptocurrency, metaverse, hashtag.
Housing market.
Getting rich fast during a bubble. The people that figure out the science and the formula very fast, and the bubble is a bubble for a reason, right? It's gonna burst and it's gonna disappear. It's even harder if the bubble is in private markets. So like what basically what you can do is try to find a way to soak up as much money as possible from optimistic investors, the investors that you sell your vision to, and I'm talking about within the private markets, and then distributing it to yourself and your family members. So when things turn south, you're already rich. This is what Mr. Neumann did. This is my takeaway. This is what he did. In various different forms. It's not an assumption. It's not it's not conjecture. It is purely facts that are available in a public forum. Because of his actions. You know.
That's why I'm saying like he, to some degree, you can call it smart because he insulated himself where he didn't get screwed. Unfortunately, other people did. But, you know.
So one of my questions to you, and this is the last note that I've got.
Okay.
To you guys, we can go over whatever else you guys have, obviously, but should you reward someone with amounts we talked about what he walked away with, right? Okay, sorry.
To recap,
1.7 billion.
1.7 billion.
Okay, so should you reward someone with an amount this large who has proven to completely mismanage his company, caused multiple layoffs, made a lot of people suffer and hurt, loss of jobs, consistent pain to his investors, and had consistent problematic conduct in a workspace environment, should you reward someone with this amount of money? Right? What do you guys think?
I think morally, answer is obvious, no. But I think legally and realistically, I don't think they had a choice. That's why he was even able to do so. And to this day, he still got a good portion of it. He said he had 450.
450 million.
So that's what, a fourth of it. So,
yeah, I mean, I would, my answer is similar in a sense where, let's say the answer is no. I don't think he deserves it. Okay, so now if that is the path we want to take, what are their parameters then, right? Like we need to now start to think about how much conduct, how many layoffs, and start to put figures around there. So
well, I don't think layoffs go into his bad accolades thing.
Well, no, I was just kind of going based off of what you the things that you said, but are there parameters?
It was a byproduct of how he was running the business, right? He scaled way too much, too fast, too many rapid location openings and whatnot, right? But my question was more of he's not a baby. He's not a child. This is an adult that very well knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
It's this is at the end of the day, right? This is kind of the tough, bad, sour side to capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing. There's a right way and a wrong way of doing capitalism.
Absolutely.
For me, right? No amount of money is worth that level of public disgrace.
Duping, yeah.
Where your family knows what you did. You're a scumbag. You've screwed a lot of people over. You have no honor, no integrity.
Mm-hmm.
You've made $450 million. You've made $1.7 billion. But is it worth it if you're living in the Hamptons? But anytime you go into an investor meeting and you call out, hey, I want to buy a share, and they're like, oh yeah, you're not going to get a board seat because you're trash. This is your track record. You're forever etched into the history books that will never change. Is $450 million at what
do you
cost?
think his answer to that question is?
His
I think
answer?
it's a yes. I don't think it's really a question.
I don't think he ever had a choice. If
he was sitting across from me or across from any one of you guys, you asked him that question, what do you think his answer is?
was
yes?
it worth it?
Yeah.
Damn. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I can see obviously both sides, but I wonder what his answer is.
I think he'd be fine with it.
Do you think
He's
he'd do it
fine
again?
with it now.
Yeah,
if he could do it again, he might do it again.
I would
Now,
agree.
Would you guys be fine with it?
No.
The outcome? That is any amount of money worth it? Mm-mm. We're talking billions, right? In his case, that was billions.
Yeah, but what's billions if you can't spend it with people that you like or that you love, or every time you go out, he's a celebrity, but for the wrong reasons kind of thing, That's my take, at least. That's my take, at least.
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally, I don't operate like that, so I can't say I would. But
So
I'm
the answer
not
would
him.
be no.
So yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I'm not him. So it is what it is.
wonder what
At
he
the end
would
of the
say.
day, we can split hairs about morality, but
Yeah, for
everybody does their own different things. So
I mean, it's. I think it's I want to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I think a lot in the startup and the entrepreneur world, you kind of get lost in the sauce. When things are kind of just one after the other,
drowned in the sauce.
dopamine hit after dopamine hit after.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not saying anything that he did was correct.
Yeah.
Or just the way he ran his business. I think he was an absolutely poor CEO and horrible execution.
Lightly, yeah.
No, I've worked with people that had similar tendencies and characteristics, and it's insanely difficult to work on that level. In his case, I would say he was kind of successful in his path. What he got was they called it the golden parachute. It's basically here's a gift. You don't deserve it. You just got a get out of jail free card and
free card.
and $1 billion, which is insane. But I don't know. At the end of the day, he made something happen because it was all about his charisma, his energy and his.
Just goes to show, right? And obviously, we've done a couple episodes now in regards to building a team and things that you need to do when starting a company. Sales cures all. As messed up or however that may sound, based on what you just said, his charisma, his ability to sell.
I mean, I think I agree with you, man. I think I think the biggest thing you can learn from Adam Neumann is become a really good salesman, right? He sold a lot of pipe dreams.
In a good way.
In a good way, right? He sold a lot of pipe dreams, a lot of overly inflated situations and like his vision, but I think he believed it.
I would agree with that.
Like, he
I would
believed it,
100% agree with that.
I think he believed it enough where he was like, like when he got lost in the sauce, that he was like, screw it, I'm just gonna keep going, even though it's not what he,
Maybe.
Yeah, like I think he had it. He imagined it one way when he began, and then as he went through the journey, things changed.
How far along are you? Did you only watch?
I didn't even finish the first episode.
Oh, you didn't finish the first episode. Yeah, you can see there are moments. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there are moments. I mean, you know his story. There are moments where, like,
don't spoil it anyway.
Well, if you read the article, you know what's about to happen. But there are moments where, like, somebody's like during the SEC situation, right? Like they're coming in, they're like doing the due diligence. They're like, imagine Adam's over there, across the table, and we're explaining to him like what just went down. Like you are in a absolute like shitstorm, and you can tell like he's like, oh man, I'm fucked. Like I didn't realize this is where it was going. Like I truly
think he was blind to it.
To some degree.
Like, first of all, the shady stuff that he did with like WeWork, buying the brand name and buying property and selling it back to, that's all illegal. That's all like shady, unethical business, right? Not illegal. We don't know the legality of things, but more of like very shady, unethical way of running a business, right? But I think he believed in his like lies and like a lot of the things that he said too much, where I think he
willing to do anything.
Willing to do anything. Also, like I don't think he was thinking he was selling anything that he didn't think he could do.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
I think that's a fair point to make, and, you know, being realistic. It's like a toss-up.
You think he was being realistic?
No. I'm saying like being realistic, right? That's obviously a trait that he did not possess. But sometimes, like, there's like a fine line where it's like, sometimes you need to be, but then other times it's like,
I think he believed he was, and just he had to find out that in reality what he wanted to do really wasn't something that was ethically possible, right? So.
Yeah.
I mean, so right now, current day, right? He's hanging out in the beautiful beaches of
Long Island.
Hampton, Long Island.
Are those beaches beautiful?
Yeah.
Okay.
I disagree, but you know,
if you find the nice private ones, for sure.
All right, even then, honestly, like I went to the Caribbean 10 years ago. I used to go to the beach out here. Went to the Caribbean. I came back, and I was like, I'm not going to the water anymore. That was my perspective. That's how bad it was for me.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point to be made.
It's crystal blue water. You can see your feet. And then you go to like Jones Beach.
Nothing compares to that, man. Yeah.
You go to Jones Beach. You go to Robert Moses. No knock, but that's what we got. But it's like, then you see what comes out of the water. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But what you were saying?
No, like, I mean,
he's in the beach somewhere in the Hamptons.
Out, like he's living.
Beachfront property, at least. Yeah,
you think his conscience eats at him? Maybe. 100%. Maybe not.
I mean, if he depends on, like, he talks about faith a lot. Like, he went on a TechCrunch or something, like, right about a year after the whole thing. He went on a panel and he talked, like, he says he's a very, like, he's pretty strong when it comes to the Jewish faith, and I like to think that people that are, at least they have some sort of a conscience where you want to be a good human being instead of just like screwing people over. Or at least if you've realized that you have and you've not done the right ethical thing to run your business, at least you've kind of tried to, what's the word, repent, you know, to some degree.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, at the end of the day, like, he can say all he wants when he's in front of the camera, right? But like what happens behind closed doors when like it's 11, 12, 1 a.m.? What was that?
Oh, no.
Oh, you just scared me.
It's picking it up.
When it's like 11, 12, like 1 a.m., like, what is he thinking when he's by himself? You know, like that's what's like curious, you know?
I don't know. Yeah, I think to some degree, being that his wife was so supportive, he has a little bubble that he lives in.
Oh,
but
good point.
Like, it probably might burst in a few like years when his kids get older, and then that reaction of them reacting to it as an adult, we'll see how that
even
goes.
Like other people, you know, it's gonna get renewed. I don't know how young his kids are, but.
Well, that's the thing. Like the only businesses he'd ever, like, in my opinion, that he'd be, because he's so like defaced now, you know, that he'd be able to, like, if he wanted to try it on, like the last thing that he invested in, which was that kind of got some notoriety, was this. What is this? like a bell service for a real estate company
Not
or
ring.
something like that. No, not a bell service, but like a doorman attendance service, something like that for real estate. He was still kind of staying within that real estate realm, but again, like no notable, like imagine like the next Snapchat or the TikTok
It's
needs
backed by
investment. They're not, like, he's probably blacklisted, and it's not people that will take his money are the people that will need that money. Like it was.
I was
like,
just gonna say, if you're in a position like you might, even though he's blacklisted, I mean, you know, obviously there'd be certain constraints, but who knows?
Like taking money. Well, actually, don't say that.
Yeah, but I mean, any last thoughts on WeWork, WeCrash that we should kind of go over before we wrap up here? I mean, closing statements, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. I think I covered most of my closing thoughts.
Okay.
Horton.
Well, I mean, you can learn what not to do. Granted,
Fair.
right? Because he really tested the limits. So that's one thing I'll give him credit for. He's willing to try anything. So yeah, you learn what not to do.
I mean, so like for me, closing thoughts is more like like no amount of money is worth that. Like I would never do that. Like I'm a very like my family is really tight. Like I don't care how successful you are. At the end of the day, you need people to celebrate it with and enjoy.
Without a doubt.
You know.
Well,
So-
he does have that. We can't say he doesn't. He's got his wife and 6 kids.
6 kids. He's got 6 kids.
Oh.
Okay. Cool.
Two
We know what
two
him
sets
and
of
his
them are
wife do
twins.
A lot of those
in the
kids.
Hamptons in their alone time. It seems like.
Sure. I think they were
Closing,
doing that before
is that
the
your closing
Hamptons.
thought?
No, I mean, my closing thought would be, you know, like, it's a learning lesson. Like, you know, whether you think it's cool, whether you think it's not cool. Like, at the end of the day, you know, if you're listening to Venture Hustles and like you are in the mode of a startup, thinking about creating a business, like, evaluate your risks always and understand who you're doing business with, you know, in regards to their character, their integrity, and, you know, some of their past ventures, or, you know, what does their past look like?
Yeah.
You know, like references are always good, you know, especially if you're hiring someone, kind of thing. But, you know, I think that would be, you know, some closing lessons statements for myself.
While no company is perfect, I think you can look compare this, like this. A guy like Adam Neumann has a place, right? Like, in order for there to be good, it needs bad. In order for there to be sunshine, there needs to be rain. You need to be able to have those both sides. True. So like, while there's a company like WeWork that exists, you know, you got your Apples, you got your Googles, like companies that have been around for a long time that, as far as we know, did it right. Maybe something else will come up. I don't know.
God.
No, they've all had, actually, all of the brands you just named all had turbulent starts.
Of course.
And a lot of controversial things with the founders and the co-founders. Maybe not like the end result with the founders.
Exactly. Well, they're still there, those co-founders, right?
Well, yeah.
For the most part, he died, though.
Yeah,
that's the difference. He got kicked out,
Yeah.
and then they asked him to come back because the company was so screwed.
Well,
Fair.
the whole thing with, like, was it Steve Wozniak? Like, there's so many different things.
That's true.
You know, like, it's never clean. I get it.
It's never 100% clean.
Yeah, but you
Silicon
can't be
Valley-
100% dirty.
Honestly, I can't even say he's 100% dirty. He's not
No,
in
I'm saying
jail.
you can't be 100% dirty. You're like, you can't be 100% clean, but you can be 100%
Like a
dirty.
business
That's
can't
what
be.
you mean.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be like gray areas, or like, and
Yeah.
when we say clean or dirty, it's not like ethic wise. It's more
Yeah.
of like, how did you end up getting to that, and like how messy was it, right? Like,
And
that's
was
what
it
you guys do.
intentional? Was it
Yeah.
malicious? Was it by
Exactly.
accident? You know, actions speak louder than words.
Always.
That's, yeah, for sure.
I think that was a good closing statement there, Horton. And it's always a pleasure sitting down with you guys and chatting it up.
Absolutely.
Yes, likewise.
You know, as always, everyone listening, we appreciate you. And, you know, we're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, along with all the other platforms that
Pretty sure
you
you can find
think
us
you
on
might
Anchor as
find.
well, right?
TikTok, Instagram.
Mhm.
Our socials as well, yep.
So, hope you guys enjoyed. You know, it was a little bit of a different take for an episode, you know, but
Yeah.
again, the ideal scenario would be hopefully you guys, you know, learn a couple things, big or small. And
Yeah, hopefully
you know,
this was like hopefully you've never heard about this, and this was insightful and cool to learn about. It's just like a fascinating story and what went down. We always find stories like this like super exciting.
Yeah.
And it's like
Especially in
within
our world.
the realm of venture hustles, and we wanted to talk about it.
Yep.
Also, we appreciate the feedback and
Heck yeah.
the shares and the likes and the comments.
Heck yeah.
Indeed.
Please continue supporting and
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate it. very much so. And again, if there's any particular industry that you want to learn more about, drop it in the comments, and we'll do our best to bring someone on that is they're an expert and that's what they do, and they've done well at it. So I guess with that,
for some of you in the grapevine making comments about my hat, I like my hats. Stop fronting. All right, well, you got my hair today.
Yeah, if you watch this episode via YouTube, there might be a little surprise in regards to the hat.
Horton with no hat has happened because of the hat comments.
Yeah.
No, it didn't happen because of the hat comments.
Oh, okay.
It's getting warmer. The whole point of wearing the hat is because it was cold.
Fair.
I mean, I think it's a good look either way. Yeah. I know it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's finally 60 degrees in New York.
Fair.
Jeez, I'm happy.
Yeah.
All right.
But, enjoy, guys.
Signing
Appreciate
off.
you guys.
Yep.
Good night.
Venture hustles. This is venture hustles. Turn nothing to something. Start a business. Get it jumping. Ay, told myself that I would make it and I'm never quitting. Staying motivated and I started with a vision.